Most people think millionaires wake up at 5 in the morning because someone on social media told them that's the secret. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Waking up early has never made anyone rich. If that were true, every construction worker, every nurse working the morning shift, and every farmer would already be a millionaire. The real difference isn't the time they wake up. It's what happens during the first 90 minutes after their eyes open. Self-made millionaires don't start their day by reacting to the world. They don't grab their phone to check Instagram, scroll TikTok, answer random text messages, or dive into negative headlines. Because the moment you consume someone else's priorities, you've already abandoned your own. Think about that. Every notification is a tiny request for your attention. Every email is someone else's agenda. Every trending topic is another distraction competing for the most valuable resource you'll ever own: your focus. And millionaires guard that focus like a billionaire guards a vault full of gold. While everyone else is feeding their brain with endless information, successful people are creating value before they consume it. They spend those first moments thinking, planning, writing, building, solving problems, or making decisions that move their lives forward. Have you ever noticed how the richest entrepreneurs rarely appear rushed? That's because they aren't controlled by urgency. They're controlled by priorities. They understand something most people never realize. Every single morning is an investment opportunity. If the first hour disappears into scrolling social media, you've invested your attention into making technology companies richer. But if that same hour is spent improving your skills, strengthening your body, organizing your finances, or creating something useful, you've invested in yourself. That's a completely different return on investment. One habit quietly compounds into wealth. The other quietly compounds into regret. And here's another misconception. People imagine millionaires jumping out of bed full of motivation every single morning. Reality couldn't be more different. Many successful people wake up tired. Some wake up stressed. Some wake up overwhelmed by responsibilities most people couldn't even imagine. But they don't negotiate with their emotions. They negotiate with their calendar. Motivation is unreliable. Discipline is predictable. That's why self-made millionaires build routines instead of depending on feelings. They know feelings change every few minutes. Systems keep producing results for years. Imagine two people standing in the exact same room. One waits until they feel inspired to work. The other begins working whether inspiration arrives or not. After 5 years, who do you think owns the larger business? The answer isn't even close. That's because success is usually boring before it becomes exciting. It's thousands of ordinary mornings stacked on top of each other until the results look extraordinary. That's the part social media rarely shows. They show the private jet, not the thousands of mornings spent reading financial reports before sunrise. They show the Lamborghini, not the years of waking up to solve customer problems while everyone else was still sleeping. Wealth is often invisible while it's being created. By the time everyone notices it, the work has already been done. Another pattern appears across almost every self-made millionaire. They intentionally create silence before chaos. No music, no endless podcasts, no television screaming in the background. Just silence. Because silence forces you to think. And thinking is becoming one of the rarest skills in modern society. Everyone is consuming information. Almost nobody is processing it. Millionaires ask questions that most people never stop to consider. What's the highest value task I can complete today? Which activity creates the biggest long-term return? What problem can I solve that people will happily pay for? Those questions seem simple, yet the answers determine the direction of entire lives. While the average person is asking, "What should I watch tonight?" wealthy people are asking, "What should I build this year?" That tiny shift changes everything. Because income doesn't usually grow by working harder. It grows by solving bigger problems. And bigger problems require deeper thinking. That's why you'll often find successful founders journaling, reading business books, reviewing financial numbers, or mapping long-term strategies before the workday officially begins. They aren't trying to look productive. They're trying to reduce decision fatigue before the world starts demanding their attention. Decisions are expensive. Every unnecessary choice drains mental energy. That's one reason many wealthy people wear similar clothes, eat similar breakfasts, and follow predictable routines. It isn't because they're boring. It's because they're protecting their brain power for decisions that actually generate money. Imagine using your best thinking to choose between 12 different breakfast options, instead of deciding how to grow a company worth millions. One decision changes your morning, the other changes your future. Then comes physical health. Not because they want six-pack abs for Instagram, but because energy creates opportunity. A tired brain misses opportunities that an energized brain sees immediately. That's why so many self-made millionaires prioritize sleep, hydration, movement, strength training, walking, or simple stretching before work. They understand a truth that isn't discussed often enough. Your body is the machine that produces your income. Ignore the machine. Eventually, the business suffers too. Think of it this way. You wouldn't pour cheap fuel into a $1 million sports car and expect world-class performance. Yet millions of people expect world-class results while sleeping 5 hours, eating processed food, and sitting for 12 straight hours every day. Wealth doesn't come from sacrificing your health forever. Sustainable wealth comes from protecting the engine that produces it. That's why some of the richest entrepreneurs in the world schedule workouts with the same seriousness they schedule investor meetings, because both produce returns, just in different ways. And then something interesting happens. Before checking profits, before checking stock prices, before checking social media followers, they review progress. Not perfection, progress. They ask themselves, am I closer to my long-term vision than I was yesterday? Because real millionaires measure success differently. They know daily income can fluctuate, markets can crash, businesses can struggle. But if they're consistently improving their skills, expanding relationships, increasing knowledge, and making smarter decisions, eventually the financial rewards catch up. That's why their mornings aren't designed around looking busy. They're designed around becoming more valuable. Because in the marketplace, value always comes before wealth. And once you truly understand that principle, everything about the morning starts to look different. Instead of asking, "What do I have to do today?" self-made millionaires ask, "What deserves my attention today?" Those two questions sound almost identical, but they produce completely different lives. The average person builds a to-do list with 20 small tasks, then feels productive after crossing off 15 of them. A millionaire may complete only 3 tasks the entire day, but those 3 decisions might generate more value than hundreds of busy hours. They understand the difference between being busy and being effective. Look closely at almost any successful entrepreneur, investor, or business owner, and you'll notice they rarely rush from one thing to another. They deliberately leave empty space on their calendar. To someone watching from the outside, it looks lazy. In reality, It's strategic. Because creativity doesn't appear when every minute is occupied. The biggest business ideas, investment opportunities, and breakthrough solutions often arrive during quiet walks, long drives, or moments when the brain finally has room to think. That's why many millionaires schedule thinking time the same way they schedule important meetings. Imagine paying yourself 1 hour every morning just to think about your future instead of reacting to your present. Sounds unproductive, until one idea from that hour creates a business worth millions. Another habit separates self-made millionaires from almost everyone else. They protect their attention with ruthless discipline. Most people treat attention as if it's unlimited. It's not. It's one of the most limited resources you'll ever own. Every advertisement, every notification, every unnecessary meeting, every meaningless argument steals a little piece of it. Wealthy people know attention is the starting point of every dollar they'll ever earn. If attention disappears, good decisions disappear. And if good decisions disappear, eventually money follows. That's why they say no far more often than they say yes. They don't attend every event. They don't answer every phone call immediately. They don't join every opportunity simply because it exists. Every yes is also a no to something else. Saying yes to distractions means saying no to progress. Saying yes to entertainment means saying no to creation. Saying yes to comfort often means saying no to growth. Most people never realize they're making these trades every single day. Millionaires do. That's also why mornings are rarely filled with random conversations. Before they give energy to other people, they invest it in themselves. Reading 10 pages, reviewing yesterday's mistakes, looking at business numbers, practicing a skill, writing ideas before they disappear. They know knowledge compounds exactly like money. Read 10 pages every day, and by the end of the year, you've finished dozens of books, while someone else spent those same hours scrolling endless short videos they'll barely remember tomorrow. It's not intelligence that creates the gap, it's consistency. The same lesson repeated hundreds of times becomes wisdom. The same mistake repeated hundreds of times becomes regret. Here's something else that surprises people. Self-made millionaires don't spend every morning chasing money. They spend their mornings chasing leverage. Because time alone has limits. Working harder eventually reaches a ceiling. But leverage has almost no ceiling. Leverage can be technology. It can be employees. It can be investments. It can be systems that continue producing value while you sleep. That's why wealthy people constantly ask themselves, how can this task happen without me? Instead of, how can I work even harder? The first question builds freedom. The second often builds exhaustion. Imagine spending an entire year improving a process that saves only 30 minutes every day. It doesn't sound exciting, but after several years, those saved hours become weeks, then months, then entire years of extra productive time. Millionaires are obsessed with small improvements because they understand the mathematics of compounding. Tiny advantages repeated for years become extraordinary advantages. Tiny mistakes repeated for years become enormous obstacles. That's true for health, relationships, investing, business, and even the way you spend the first hour after waking up. Then comes something most people completely ignore: environment. Successful people intentionally design surroundings that make good decisions easier and bad decisions harder. If reading is important, the book sits on the desk before bedtime. If exercising matters, The workout clothes are already waiting. If deep work is the priority, notifications stay turned off. They don't rely on willpower every morning. They remove friction before the day even begins. Because they know willpower fades, environment quietly keeps working in the background. Think about how many daily choices are actually made automatically. You don't debate whether to brush your teeth every morning. It's become part of your identity. Millionaires aim to make wealth-build habits feel exactly the same. Reading becomes automatic. Investing becomes automatic. Saving becomes automatic. Learning becomes automatic. Building becomes automatic. Eventually, discipline no longer feels like discipline. It simply becomes who they are. And identity is far more powerful than motivation. Motivation says, "I'll do it today." Identity says, "This is what people like me do." Once that shift happens, everything changes. But perhaps the most overlooked part of a millionaire's morning has nothing to do with money at all. It's gratitude mixed with ambition. They appreciate what they've built without becoming satisfied by it. That's a difficult balance. Most people lean too far in one direction. Either they're never grateful, constantly chasing more, or they become too comfortable and stop growing altogether. Self-made millionaires often practice both at the same time. They're thankful for today's progress while staying committed to tomorrow's goals. That's one reason they can survive setbacks that destroy other people. When a business loses money, when the market crashes, when an investment fails, they don't see it as the end of the story. They see it as feedback. Every mistake contains information. Every failure teaches a lesson. Every difficult season forces a stronger system to be built. And that's exactly why their mornings remain steady even when life becomes unpredictable. Because routines create stability when emotions cannot. While the rest of the world waits for perfect conditions, they quietly keep preparing for opportunities that haven't even appeared yet. And one ordinary morning, without anyone noticing, those preparations begin turning into something extraordinary. And that's the part almost nobody sees. The headlines celebrate the exit worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The interviews highlight the luxurious homes, private jets, and successful companies. But they rarely show the ordinary mornings that made those extraordinary moments possible. Success isn't created on the day the world applauds you. It's created during the thousands of mornings when nobody is watching. Every alarm clock you ignore, every distraction you resist, every page you read, every workout you finish, every difficult decision you make instead of avoiding it becomes another invisible brick in a foundation that other people will eventually call luck. But luck has very little to do with it. Preparation does. Consistency does. Patience does. Think about Warren Buffett reading for hours every single day. Think about Jeff Bezos obsessing over long-term decisions instead of quarterly emotions. Think about countless entrepreneurs who spent years building businesses before anyone knew their names. They didn't become successful because they discovered a magical morning hack. They became successful because they repeated valuable actions long enough for compound growth to take over. That's the real secret. The habits themselves often look small. Reading 10 pages doesn't feel life-changing. Exercising for 30 minutes doesn't make you a millionaire overnight. Writing your goals every morning seems almost too simple. Turning your phone off during deep work feels insignificant. Saving a percentage of every paycheck appears ordinary. Investing consistently doesn't create instant excitement. But compound interest doesn't care about excitement. It cares about consistency. And life works the same way. Small actions repeated over months become noticeable. Repeated over years become impressive. Repeated over decades become extraordinary. That's why self-made millionaires don't chase dramatic transformations every Monday morning. They chase tiny improvements every single day. Just 1% better, one smarter decision, one more lesson learned, one unnecessary expense avoided, one meaningful conversation, one difficult task completed before comfort takes over. Individually, none of those actions seem remarkable. Together, they completely transform a person's future. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. They earn similar incomes. They have similar educations. They even have similar opportunities. One spends the first hour of every morning intentionally, planning, learning, exercising, creating, investing in personal growth. The other spends that same hour reacting, scrolling social media, checking notifications, complaining about circumstances, waiting to feel motivated. The difference after one day is almost impossible to notice. After 1 month, it's still relatively small. After 1 year, the gap becomes visible. After 10 years, they may appear to be living on completely different planets. Not because one person was born smarter, but because one person understood the incredible power of ordinary mornings. And maybe that's the most valuable lesson of all. You don't need a millionaire's bank account to begin following a millionaire's routine. You don't need expensive clothes, a luxury office, or a famous last name. You simply need the willingness to protect your mornings, value your attention, build your discipline, and trust the process even when the results remain invisible. Because the world rewards visible success, but visible success is almost always built through invisible effort. So tomorrow morning, before reaching for your phone, before letting the noise of the world decide your priorities, ask yourself one simple question. Will the next 60 minutes move me closer to the life I want or further away from it? That single question may never trend on social media. It may never go viral. But answered honestly, day after day, year after year, it has the power to completely change the direction of your life. The truth is, self-made millionaires don't possess a different 24 hours than anyone else. They simply protect those 24 hours differently. They understand that money can be lost and earned again. Opportunities come and go. Markets rise and fall. But time is the only investment that never offers a refund. Once a morning is gone, it's gone forever. And perhaps that's why, while the rest of the world keeps searching for shortcuts to wealth, self-made millionaires quietly return to the same simple habits every single morning, knowing that extraordinary lives are rarely built through extraordinary moments. They're built through ordinary moments, repeated with extraordinary consistency. So the next time you see someone celebrating years of success, remember this. You're not seeing the beginning of their story. You're seeing the result of thousands of mornings where they chose discipline over distraction, purpose over comfort, and long-term vision over short-term pleasure. Because in the end, becoming a self-made millionaire isn't about discovering one life-changing secret. It's about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with success, one morning at a time.